It's about 7 o'clock, time for our monthly meetup. So, first of all, a very warm welcome to BlockchainLab Drenthe. Let me start with a short introduction for a few new visitors. BlockchainLab Drenthe is a non-profit foundation with a goal to spread knowledge, experience and insights about blockchain technology towards entrepreneurs, students, schools, governmental bodies and private persons. Let's just say anyone who wants to learn about this exciting new technology. We are heavily involved in Interreg project Bling, which stands for Blockchain in Government. This is a project with 13 partners in 6 North Sea region countries who collaborate to develop blockchain products and applications for public services. If you want to learn more about Bling, follow the link in the video description. But first, let me start with a service announcement. Please use the YouTube chat function if you want to ask the speakers some questions. So please log in with your Gmail account, because YouTube is a Google company, and communicate with us. Let us know who you are, where you're from. We love to hear that. After this live stream, we will do an informal video gathering in a completely new way. This is the first time we will use a website called Kumo Space. It's a bit different than a video call where one person speaks and the rest listens. It's a bit like a video game where you enter a room, in our case a bar, where you can walk around and you can talk to everyone you meet within a certain circle. So you're able to have personal conversations and you can walk up to people and ask them questions without hearing everyone. This is much more natural than a video call in Jitsi or Teams. We even have a piano in our bar where you can stand next to and listen to the music if you want. I will show the link to our Kumo space at the end of our meetup, so please join us afterwards for some questions or chit-chat. At BlockchainLab Drenthe we do lots of things. We do research, develop applications, audit external blockchain projects, give lectures, and in a few months we are going to start a blockchain miner for students at NL Stende University of Applied Sciences here in the Netherlands. Our monthly meetup have a format where we have 3 segments. First, I am going to talk about what's going on in the blockchain world, where there have been some ups and downs recently, and we will talk about that. Jetse Sprey is going to educate us about blockchain and Gdpr, the General Data Protection Regulations. He is what I would call a blockchain lawyer. He is partner at Versteeg, Wigman, Sprey Lawyers in Amsterdam, and he's also Chief Legal Officer at EuropeChain and co-founder of EOS Amsterdam. Our third segment will be a demo walkthrough of the code we wrote for our self-sovereign attendancy application. I will show you step by step how it works and how you, by yourself, can experiment with the code. On your own computer, on the IOTA Tangle, and no, you do not need any IOTA coins to try this on your own. Well, more than enough introduction. Let's start with our first segment, what's going on in the blockchain space. Well, there's a lot been going on in the blockchain space. So we have a lot of things to talk about. Let me start with the most obvious of the last few weeks. The halvening, as I call it. And not the halvening of the Bitcoin transaction fees, but the halvening of the crypto prices. You see all these graphs are in red. Nearly everything went down in a very big way. And here you can see that there was a big run up from January. Right, month after month we had higher prices. We started on our meetup in January at $33,000 for one Bitcoin, and last month it was even 63,000. Well, the last few weeks it went down a lot. It went even in a very short period of time. It was at 33,000 again, but now we are at 39,000 and a little bit. So from last month it is down 37%, and that's a lot, right? I won't speak of a bloodbath. I haven't heard of a lot of people jumping from high rises and windows as I experienced in the stock markets as I was going into business. But yeah, 37% is a lot, especially for the people who started the last few months. Right? They will start with a big loss. Well, not everybody, because as you can see, Ether is still up 19%. It went down with all the cryptocurrencies, but it had a very fast run up at the beginning of the month, so it has still got left 18.7%. Yeah, you can see here with these numbers that we lost about $500 billion of US dollars, which is rather a big amount. What you can also see is that from January, where the Bitcoin dominance, as we call it, the part of the world cryptocurrency markets was 64% in January and has gone down to 43%. So this means that people are buying the smaller coins instead of the bigger ones. Of course, they're buying the bigger ones, but they're buying more of the smaller ones. And the dominance of Bitcoin in the market being at the moment 43% of the $1.7 trillion there is in all cryptocurrencies in the world. Here you can see those two cryptocurrencies. The orange one is Ethers and the blue one is Bitcoin. You can see Ether is still doing better than Bitcoin in the last month, although it has gone down severely. But the run up at the start, as I mentioned, saved it for being at a loss. Here we see Ether versus Bitcoin, and since that is still higher than at the beginning of the chart, you're still better with Ethers than Bitcoin. Now, of course, the recent decline in price was reason for a lot of people to stand up from their chair and declare that cryptocurrencies are bad for the world, that they are fundamentally worth nothing, that they are a Ponzi scheme, that they are monopoly money, all of that things, practically declaring Bitcoin dead. Don't invest in it, it's going nowhere and you will lose your money anyway. Now, that's not new. There is a website called the Bitcoin Obituary Archive, and they have a database of all these times when that happened, when people stood up and declared Bitcoin dead. That's why it's called Obituary. And they have a counter, and at the moment it is at 400. It has been done 400 times before. So please don't be disturbed. It survived 390 times before. It'll probably survive the 400th time. The reason for this big decline is somewhat in the hands of these two guys. All right, I don't say they did it single-handedly, but they are at least one of the points that made the market slide. Up there you see Vitalik Buterin. He is the founder, the inventor of Ethereum. And down there you see our friend Elon Musk. He is the director of Tesla, SpaceX, and all other kinds of stuff where he invested money in. Let's say both gentlemen see the world a little bit black and white, if you know what I mean. They did a few things. Vitalik received from a coin called Shiba Inu, which is a clone of Doscoin. And Doscoin, you heard about it probably because Elon Musk was yelling on Twitter about it for the last year. Doscoin is a fun coin. Somebody invented a coin. It is, let's say, the dog version of CryptoKitties, but then with money. Now, Dogecoin became valuable. People made a lot of money, a lot of millionaires. So the guys from Shiba Inu said, well, we'll invent a dog coin ourselves, and that's what they did, Shiba Inu, and they gave Vitalik half of the coins, right? They gave it to him, they donated it to him, and they thought he would sit on it forever, but by donating it to him, they would get publicity, prices would go up, and they did go up. Only Vitalik thought, well, what do I have to do with these worthless coins? So he sold them. He sold 10% of what he got from the founders of Shiba Inu. He exchanged them for Ethereum, which made the price of Shiba Inu go down and the price of Ethereum go up. And then he donated that money he got from this coin and some other coins also. In total, somewhere between $1 and $1.5 billion. He donated it to the Indian COVID relief organization. Now, that price in Shiba Inu went down, and that was something the founders didn't count on. Let me put it mildly. And like I said, it was only 10%, so Vitalik burned the other 90%, which made the price go up a little bit, but not enough to make a profit for all the other people. So he reacted a little bit different than they expected and gave all the money to COVID relief. And that started a market rush going down for these kind of coins. Now, Elon did something different. When Bitcoin in January was around 30,000, Elon Musk decided we are going to accept Bitcoins for buying Tesla cars. And half the cryptocurrency world thought, well, this is the adoption where we have been waiting for. If Tesla accepts Bitcoin, then the rest will follow. And prices went up. Now, last week, Elon decided that he never heard of it, but now he heard of it. He decided that Bitcoin is bad for ecology, that it is very inefficient and bad for nature. So we are going to stop accepting Bitcoins for Tesla. We're going to sit on our coins, and we're not going to put them back into the market. That's what I would say. Otherwise, the market will go down even more. And we are not going to encourage people buying Bitcoins or Ether as a proof of work. That made the market go down, right? People were really cross about it, angry that he manipulated the market and that he tricked them, and so they wanted to get out of the market. Now, this ecology thing has been going on for a while, of course, right? Everybody has heard the rumors, the stories, the arguments that Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are very energy inefficient. So they use a lot of energy. Lots of countries have been used to compare the energy usage of the Bitcoin miners, more than Holland, more than Iceland, more than Argentina. So here you see another graph of a company which did some research, and they say, well, it's not as bad as we think. Yes, we use a lot of energy, but banking takes around twice as much, and mining gold nearly as much as that. So yes, we use a lot of energy, but we're working on that. And it's not as worse as you think. When you think we are doing that bad, go and talk to the banks and the mining industry. This was a signal for several blockchain protocols to step into the market and show, well, listen, Bitcoin and Ether are using proof of work and are very bad for nature, using a lot of electricity, generating a lot of CO2, but we aren't. right? So you see here a comparison. You see here IOTA, Cardano, Bitcoin, and Ether compared to each other, and also down here how much electricity they use for one transaction. And here you can see the speed and the number of servers, the confirmation time, etc. And you can see that, for instance, Bitcoin uses the electricity for a normal house for 22 days, 22.4 days for one transaction. And Ethereum uses the electricity of a normal house for 42 hours for one transaction. Now, MasterCard uses only 1.2 seconds, and IOTA uses only 3.2 milliseconds of energy that you would normally use for a house. So there's a huge difference between these kind of protocols. Bitcoin and Ethereum using proof of work, and MasterCard is, of course, their own system, centralized system, and IOTA is a public decentralized system. But in IOTA, you use the electricity of your phone. If you're doing a transaction on your phone, you do a small piece of proof of work, and in 10-15 seconds, the electricity from your phone is used to confirm 4, 6, or 8 other transactions, and then you're done. So that's the electricity that is used for one transaction. That's very different from 22.4 days of a whole house. Let me go to the next slide. That use of electricity and the CO2 footprint is a big problem, and some countries are using that to put a cap on the mining business. Lots of miners go to countries where the electricity is very cheap, right? Because electricity is the biggest cost factor in mining. So a lot of them are in northern China, Inner Mongolia, and at this moment they are saying, well, it's illegal to use the electricity for mining because it will increase our CO2 footprint, and we don't want that. We want that to go down. So they have installed a telephone line where you can call the police on any mining activity you see in Inner Mongolia. They are setting up the citizens to report each other. Something similar is happening in Iran. There they say, well, if people are mining at home, then they are using the electricity, and we have a scarcity of electricity. So there is a power shortage, and if you are using electricity for mining, you will get a big fine. As you know it, cryptocurrencies are very in demand in Iran because of high inflation, and there are all kinds of rules with the money they use. So cryptos are popular, but now if they find out that you're mining at home, you will pay a very, very large fine. Here's some good news after all this bad news. You all know that miners are using graphic cards, right? NVIDIA cards, RTX 3060, 3090, etc. And these activities that the miners use these graphic cards to calculate hashes very fast has been the reason that prices for graphic cards have gone up considerably. And there is a big shortage for these high-end graphic cards. If you bought one half a year ago, they will pay you twice the amount of money for your card when you sell it to somebody else. Now, NVIDIA has seen that and is very frustrated about that. They have a lot of complaints from gamers that cannot get the graphic cards for the right price. So they are at the moment implementing an algorithm which makes these cards unusable for crypto mining. So you will find in the shops NVIDIA graphic cards with a code on it that they are light for hashing. So the miners would have to pay a higher price, buy 2 or 3 of these cards to use for mining to get the same result, and they won't do that. So this is a measure that NVIDIA tries to put in place to get the graphic cards into the computers of the gamers again, and they are very happy about it. A certain steady part of our first segment is always scams. So we're in that part now, and here you see some news from this week where a Turkish crypto exchange said, well, we had a data breach in 2018, 3 years ago, and 500,000 user data were stolen. This is remarkable. It's not remarkable that there was a data breach. That's happening everywhere in the world, right? And lots of people will say, oh, the blockchain has been compromised. No, the blockchain wasn't compromised. There was a server with data of clients and addresses and telephone numbers and even pictures in this case. And somebody stole these records. What is remarkable is that this Turkish exchange always denied that they were stolen. No, nothing happened. There wasn't only rumors, etc. But last Monday, the guy who stole the data put the data up for sale, and he even showed a part of the data to prove that this was the stolen data. I think he asked $10,000 for it or something. And now the exchange says, well, yes, there was a data breach, and 560,000, 16,000 people, their addresses and their phone numbers, etc., were taken out of our system. So can you imagine that happening in, for instance, the Netherlands? The day you will have a breach and have 1,000 addresses nicked from your server, you will have, the same day you will have to call the authorities and report that. And there's no denying possible. There in Turkey, it took them 3 years to acknowledge that there was a breach. And like I said, even pictures, photo IDs were in that breach. So it's very dangerous. That breach and the popularity of crypto coins had one company very lucky, which is the Ledger company. Ledger Nanos, as you can see here, are hardware wallets where you use them for cold storage of your cryptocurrencies. They had a data breach themselves in November, December of last year. 270,000 names of people who bought a ledger were taken from them. No cryptos were stolen, right? It's only they know that you have a ledger. Still, in the first quarter of this year, they saw their revenue go up by 500%, right? More people entering the crypto markets is one factor, but the second factor is that more people are aware of the problem you have, the fact that you can lose your private keys and all your money by the problems you have by letting your money on the servers of an exchange where something could happen. We talked about it before. Andreas Antonopoulos said, not your keys, not your crypto. So people are buying these small devices to be secure of their keys and their money. So they sold 6 times as much of these ledgers in the first quarter. They are looking for 150 people as personnel to work in their company. So if you have some desire to work for such a company, give them a call. Last thing, I said we always talk about scams. This is a scam that took place this morning in the DeFi, decentralized finance space, where a person manipulated flash loans. What did he do? He first went to Binance and loaned a very large sum of money. with which he manipulated the price of the bunny coin. Then he took out a loan. He loaned a lot of those coins. Then he dumped the bunny coin to nearly zero, and he paid back the loan. So he nearly had to pay back nothing, and he took out $200 million. And now they are looking into the problem, and Binance is probably going to roll back the transactions. But every day, somewhere, people exploit the system, right? So there is no crypto protocol broken. There is a DeFi contract, a smart contract, where you could loan coins very fast and pay them back a few seconds later to leverage a position or whatever. And this guy thought of a way to manipulate that and profit from that. So be aware where these kinds of things are happening. In the chart, you can see how fast it went down, and a lot of people from Pancake Bunny, the organization, lost a lot of money. Okay, this is it for the segment of the blockchain news, right? We've seen large volatility in the market, and we've seen some gentlemen who are at least partly responsible for that. We've seen the latest scams. I'll see if there are any questions about this part, and I'll try to answer them. Okay. Well, lots of news. I'm looking into the questions. A few remarks that this is the moment to get into the market. In the stock market, I've seen lots of opportunities like that. Big investors always say you have to buy when the blood is flowing through the streets. I wouldn't say that that is going on in the crypto market at this moment, but still, the big whales, as they are called, the people with large and very large positions, are picking up their bitcoins and all kinds of other coins at a lower price. So, as we say in Holland, it is een koopje, and they will try to even enlarge their position more to make more profits in the future. Let me see. Josie wrote, regarding sustainability and cryptocurrencies, there are actually some sustainable coins in the market which are predicted to rise. Absolutely. There are coins and protocols looking for new opportunities, and this is one of them. Going for the greenest fund, the greenest token is, of course, a big selling point for a large group of investors. So yes, you're right. Find those coins and go ahead. Let's say we'll see each other in 5 years or maybe 10 years and see what has become of that. Okay, are there any other questions? I don't see any. Then I am going to the next segment. The next segment is about blockchain and GDPR and law. Jetse Spree is going to enlighten us about personal data and blockchain. He will do the introduction himself because he can do that far better than I can. So let's go and switch over to Jetse Spree.
All right. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you for the compliment that I can do that much better myself. I'm not too sure about that. Happy to have this talk on your blockchain lab. And today, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to talk about the blockchain and the GDPR. And what I'm told about you people is that I don't have to explain how blockchain works or what the players are, or all the nitty-gritty details. You're supposedly well aware of all of that, so we can really focus on the legal sides of it, and especially then, of course, the GDPR side. First, I'll do a short introduction of how I got where I am right now. Talk a little about Eurochain's mission. But then, without further ado, we jump right into the GDPR fun, so to speak, and the GDPR issues and how we deal with them. And after that, if you have any questions, and there might be quite a few because it's a complicated subject, feel free and ask them. So this is the European management team. I didn't put in a slide of myself. I'm a lawyer, obviously. I work in technology, started off and still work in technology, obviously, 25 years ago. And I've kind of seen it all pass by from the early, even the internet introduction. I was there. And 3 years ago, an old standing client of mine, the guy with a bald head on your top left, asked me to start a company with him. And that company is EOS Amsterdam, based on the EOS protocol, which is, by the way, 6,500 times more energy efficient than Bitcoin, I'm told. So, and it's completely greenwashed, guys. So hop in there. And EOS Amsterdam is a technical provider, a technical company, and we run nodes, and they're called on the EOS protocol. They're called block producers on the WAX blockchain. I don't know, you probably heard of those. The EOS mainnet, Proton, and also the FIO blockchain. And as of lately, we become heavily entangled in the NFT business and make quite a nice bit of money about it by selling the digital football cards and digital art on Wax. And we do that together with a company called R2. Check them out. And if you're interested, buy Wax and start buying the, it's not really a dip because it goes up, but the Wax goes down. So at the end of the day, whatever the pictures, the NFTs goes for is sort of cheaper, I would say. Then we made a market analysis, and we figured there should be a blockchain that is not aiming at the general public, but at the larger corporations. And larger companies and governments, what they need is a compliant blockchain. They have these guys, they're worse than lawyers, they're called accountants. And each and every year they have to sign off, this yearly accounts, and they have to put their signature saying that the big company is compliant with the laws, and they just cannot do that if the blockchain that company uses is not a compliant EU law compliant blockchain. So that's why we started Eurochain, and those are some of the people that are in the management team. Not all. Our CTO isn't on that. And what I did, at a personal note, what I love about blockchain is the total lack of boundaries. I mean, these people are from Ireland, from India, from Spain, and from the Netherlands. And we work like with the Wax blockchain. The biggest market is Korea. So it's really an international situation. So what we are doing with Eurochain, that's going to be and already is, though it's always debatable, an EU compliant blockchain. And the reason I'm on board, and I was asked by Red Outkerk in the first place, is that, if you have 25 years of experience, for instance, on the fields of governance, securities laws, contract law, corporate law, IP, and data protection, privacy, this is about what you're all going to encounter when you start a blockchain company. And more specifically, when you start a blockchain company that aims to become the first compliant company in Europe. So this is what we do. We run permissioned. We are going to run. We're not we do run a public chain currently. The products are public permissions blockchain that for each and every jurisdiction, so to speak. So the Europe chain is for the EU, but we also got the Satya chain, and those are that's an Indian compliant chain. And currently we're working with a big system integrator to get it going there. And obviously we offer private blockchain. A steadily growing business also here is our NFT consulting and NFT offerings, and it's a big boom at the moment, and it's quite interesting from many point of views. And I would say I don't have a doubt that it's not a hype and it's going to stay there, because building a unique relationship, or rather creating scarcity digitally, that's what an NFT does. Scarcity is, becomes a something that's worth something. That's what it proves. It's very basic human behavior. Second to that, we got something that we call an enablement layer, and those are business tools. We're working to write self-sovereign identity, GDPR compliant, of course. There's a fact-checking software and some other tools that are meant to help the business to use blockchain in a seamless and easy manner. So this is us. Now over to the GDPR. I've decided to start this talk with a very important slide about what exactly are personal data. Because if there's no personal data, if you cannot make a connection through the data to a person, it's not personal data. So if there's no personal data, there's no GDPR, and we'll see that that would life if the GDPR is not applicable, that makes your life really, really much easier. But there's no 100% clarity about what personal data are. As a matter of fact, it's rather murky. It has to do with a lot of issues, and one of the important ones is the lack of court or court verdicts. So there's no what we lawyers call jurisprudence. There's no I forgot the English word. Hang on. Sorry, precedents. There's no precedents. Yeah. So that makes it very hard for a lawyer like myself to decide on what data are exactly personal data. I can tell you much more data are personal data than you would say in the beginning. For instance, let's take an ordinary public key. Would that be considered to be personal data? Is it possible to get back to the human being behind the public key? In many cases, it's not, but a considerable number of cases, it's possible. And that's going to be more and more possible. If during time, what's happening right now, you have to KYC to get to your to get your Bitcoin, etc., with the exchanges. So there are all kinds of connections possible, and as soon as it's possible to make the connection between data and a person, it becomes personal data. An important thing I have to tell you as well is that pseudonymized data, I hate that word, that's also personal data. So the fact that you yourself have to do, use data that are only that you yourself cannot cannot connect to the person behind it, doesn't mean it's not personal data. There's someone else that can do that. So that's for that someone else, it's at least personal data. For many people, it's also very likely to become personal data. And also, if you can build a data set around that random number that in certain circumstances allows people to be identified, it can become personal data. I'm saying this all to tell you all that the GDPR is very easily applicable to a lot we're doing right now on the blockchain. And I think a lot of people do not know that, or at least they act as if they do not know. So basically, you can say the more data you connect to an account, the less chance it is that such data will be anonymous. And there's another issue. If you have like a big database where a large number of data is like cannot be used to identify the person behind it, if a considerable number and no one knows what exactly that considerable number is, so we're always in the gray area, this whole GDPR is one big gray area, then it's still, you need to treat that database as if it contains only personal data. Another nice question, encrypted data, are those anonymous? I mean, you cannot identify a person if you have like some numbers that don't mean nothing. I would say if you cannot break that code in a legal matter, it shouldn't be personal data, but it's hotly being debated. And also, there's no jurisprudence here, no precedents. So let's presume we have a data set and a blockchain, and it's personal data. It can be connected to a human being behind that data. Then we enter the GDPR realm. Welcome, you all. So, first of all, the GDPR was written in ancient times. There was no blockchain at that point in time. Was there a blockchain, they probably would have written it totally different, but I wasn't. So you have to keep that in mind. And there's a second thing I'll better tell you that straight away. There's no easy answer to probably to none of your questions. Because if you want to know what to do in specific circumstances, you have to take that whole factual and practical situation into consideration. There's no one-size-fits-all remedy for all this legal misery I'm going to indulge you in. So this is the overview. We talk about legal grounds for processing, data minimization requirements, the maximum data retention period, controller processor agreements, the rights of data subject, and last but not least, the right to be forgotten, which is always one of the highlights of these kind of talk, because it sounds pretty much not to be impossible to combine that with an immutable blockchain. So let's go to the legal ground first. The only way to legally process data, personal data, is if you have a legal ground. And in order to find out whether or not you have a legal ground, you have to look at two things. First is the base layer. If you have a blockchain, that's, let's say, the account level. Then if you run a dApp on the base layer, that's the dApp level. I make that distinction because you'll see that in practice that makes a difference for the way you can implement the GDPR. So those are the three. On screen you have the three most important legal grounds, and one of those you need to be entitled to proceed to process personal data. The first one is consent. You've heard about it. The second one is the fulfillment of an agreement. So if the processing is necessary for the fulfillment of an agreement, you're entitled to do it. And the third is the legitimate interest. And this legitimate interest, that can be your commercial interest, but also the integrity of the blockchain is a legitimate interest. needs to be balanced against the privacy interest of the data subject. Enter again a big gray area. So how did we solve that, or how did we work with that legal grounds in Europe chain? First of all, the base layer. So the account. Someone makes an account which is data, personal data. Which ground we use to process those personal data and keep the account going. I'm sorry. There's something you need to know about consent. It needs to be given freely. And it can be revoked at any time. And if you need to give consent in order to get to money, because if you want to process your data on chain, you are asked consent. That consent is not freely given, because if you cannot really say no, you lose money if you do. Further, it can be revoked anytime. So it's just not a basis to work from consent. So all these companies, like for instance Facebook, that ask your consent, to consent to all the awful things they're going to do with your data, that consent is very likely not viable. However, we have more legal grounds. One of them is, for instance, the fulfillment of an agreement. So you open up an account, you start to transfer your tokens, for instance. You start to buy the tokens. Those actions can only be done if your data are processed. So for the fulfillment of the agreement, it's necessary to process your data. So that's a great ground. But then after the tokens are transferred, and the processing is not necessary anymore. So you lose that ground. So then there's one ground left, and that's the legitimate interest. That's legitimate interest that needs to be balanced against the data subject's privacy interest. So one of the legitimate interests, in our view, is of course the immutability of the blockchain. You just cannot. You have an interest that the data stay on chain, otherwise the blockchain is not immutable anymore. So this is the base layer, and then there are the dApps running on it. So the applications, and there you have to look at each and every application, how that's being done. It could be about the fulfillment of an agreement. Consent might work there, etc., etc. It's another ball game. But on the base layer, this is how it should be done. So those are the grounds. You need those grounds. Now you have those grounds, so it's all set. Then there's a very important requirement. You cannot process more data than you really need. So if you don't really need personal data, it doesn't really matter if it's based on consent or fulfillment of a contract or the legitimate interest. You just cannot have them. And there's certain logic in it. So if you look at the legitimate interest, that needs to be balanced against the data subject privacy, the data subject's privacy interest. Obviously, that balance tilts much easier towards the controller than to the data subject if there's less data involved. So it's very clear that the lesser data you store on chain, the lesser the privacy interests are, so the easier it becomes to legally use the ground of legitimate interest when you store those data on chain. At the end of the day, I think you can easily say that the GDPR requires any blockchain to be more of a validating machine that validates through the blockchain data that are stored off-chain, than data that are stored on-chain. So personal data should, as much as possible, reasonably possible, be stored off-chain, which of course um, has a great is a great challenge to all of the open and public blockchains, because there's no control there. So how did we do that at Europe Chain? Well, first of all, there's something else you need to know about the GDPR. There are certain roles defined. There is always a controller. It needs to be. Someone needs to control the data flow, so to speak, which is, with the decentralized organization, a bit of a bummer, right? I mean, this is not what blockchain is about. It's about decentralization, not about the central entity that controls something. So that makes it difficult to work with. Also here, we make the distinction between the account level and the dApps, obviously. So what we did with Europe Chain is that we appointed Europe Chain BV. We called that's a Dutch limited company. We promoted Europe Chain BV and made that company the controller, and all the nodes, the block producers, we made processors. And we concluded, because that's required as well, we concluded processors agreement between the controller and the block producers. That can obviously only be done if you have like some sort of a permission chain. If everybody can just hop on without signing off any contract, it's not going to work. So if you have like a public and unpermissioned chain, it's going to be tough to get this all set up. But I think with the DPoS chain EOS is, and there's a couple of other of them, it works quite neatly. So everyone that sort of wants to become a block producer has to pass through the process of accepting the processor agreement. Also here, you really have to look at each blockchain on this and judge it on its own merits. And if we talk about the dApp, an application that runs on the blockchain, the party that's responsible for that application is the controller, and then suddenly the Europe Chain BV becomes a sub-controller, and all the block producers Europe Chain BV become the processor, and the other parties become sub-processors. Another challenge, those are the rights of the data subjects. Each and every data subject has a right under the GDPR, a couple of rights. I took the most important ones. The first challenging one is the right to be informed. We do that at Europe Chain because we have a permission chain by routing everyone that opens an account through a field and have a checkbox where they can enter their credentials needed to communicate with them. But so if you don't have some system like that, it's very difficult to prove at the end of the day that the people that use the blockchain have been correctly informed. So that's a challenge. Secondly, there's this notorious right to be forgotten. Everyone is always talking about the right to be forgotten. But please note, if you do everything correctly, the right to be forgotten is not an absolute right. You can, if you have like a legitimate interest, not to delete data concerned. For instance, you're running a blockchain. So how would you, delete, let's say, Bitcoin because there's personal data involved? If you balance those, you'll easily see that it's not going to work. So that's also one of the reasons, by the way, to go back to an earlier slide, where you have to be careful with storing personal data on chain. The lesser data you store on chain, the lesser chance you have it's going to be the balance still the horrible wrong way. You have to hard fork your blockchain. So better safe than sorry. And then we have at Europe chain, apart from ensuring that not as few data on chain as reasonably possible, we have an add-on and it's called the history node filtering. So we kind of filter bits and pieces if there comes a request to do so. We kind of filter that so the official, of course, everyone can copy that, and make their own history notes and download it, etc. So, but the nodes in the network, the history nodes in the network, they have filters, the official ones, and that also helps to tilt the balance again because it's a balancing act towards the towards us rather than towards the data subjects, because it's just a lesser chance that data that shouldn't be there can be found. I mean, it's all, there's no black and white. It's all in this moving around in this gray area, which is it's quite challenging, but it's also in a way trying and find reasoning why things like this should work and why not. So it's great fun actually for a lawyer. And that, by the way, was my last slide. I'm not sure if I can see if there are any questions, but happy to answer them. Good. From sorry? Oh, whoa. Yeah, well, there are. That's very hard to say in practice. I think you gave an example, Adri, about the way you handled physical house addresses. Physical house addresses, the thing you live in, the things you live in. The addresses are personal data because they can be connected easily to a human being. So if you want to use those data because other than for delivering mail or something, you may want to exchange those with a random number. And then the big question is, and that's just always the question, if you can get back, not without too much difficulty, to those original data, they are personal data. So you really have to. The easy answer is it should be a one-way street. So anonymizing should be done one way and should be impossible to get back.
And even then, I talked to you about the use case we are building for the municipality of Emmen, and we're registering houses on the blockchain with a random number and not sending these people by mail, because then you have an address, or not sending it by email, that ID to them, because then you have an email address. No, just bringing it to their door and having them pull it like a lottery from a box of different IDs, so it's really random, right? So that's one of the tricks. But if these people start answering questions about their surroundings, their houses, etc., then you could single out a certain house. If they're in a big part of Emmen is only one house with solar panels, right? And one of these houses answers, yes, I have solar panels, and the rest answers no, then you can single that one out. Then you know where that house is. So it's not even the architecture or the procedures. It's also the information that is stored versus the number of samples you have. So it's very complicated.
Yeah,
it's very complicated.
We really need to. We thought we had some clarity in a case called the Breyer case, where the High Court of Justice of the European Union said, if you don't have the legal means to get to the data, those are not personal data. That was a clear guideline.
Okay.
But they said it in a very small sentence. It wasn't. It was written just for this case. So I don't know if that's going to hold, because that would be also maybe a bit complicated, because if there's illegal data around, legal means it should be like balanced with is it practically possible and that sort of stuff. But just the idea that if you don't have the legal means, it's no personal data. I think that should be the way to go, because otherwise we're all going mad. Just what we've seen with the blockchain and all the encrypted data on it. It doesn't make sense if there's somewhere is the key to all that encrypted data, and so the whole shebang is personal data, even if no one can hack the code. So yeah.
Yeah, but maybe in that line of thought, your investor asks, how should GDPR be modified or changed in order to be fit for technologies like blockchain?
Well, I think the GDPR might work. I think obviously the controller and processor bit should go, as far as I'm concerned, should go out. But that's a bigger bummer than the other stuff. And we should have clarity on the. What the point is with the GDPR? It's not specific. It's not even the law itself. It's the way some and many of the authorities, like our own Dutch Autoriteit Persoonsgegevens, are interpreting the law, because they do it in a very, very data subject, privacy biased manner. And they make it for businesses like blockchain very hard to function and bring their technological advantages to the market. And often, really often, and I wrote on LinkedIn about that a couple of times, they make decisions that go against not only that really go against everything all other lawyers, and not myself, maybe a bit biased as being a blockchain lawyer, but also respected privacy lawyers that work for the government. There's no one in the world would say, you're right there, Autoriteit Persoonsgegevens Authority. Good, very well done. I agree fully. They all say, no, don't go there. And then the judge says, don't go there. But they still go there. So it's a kind of crusade. and they tend to their profile is like a crusader for the better of the privacy of the people, whereas in my view, they should, in a neutral way, apply the law. That's what they're for. They're not there for enhanced privacy. They're there to uphold the law. Well, anyway, I get carried away. So.
Yeah, well, you could even state that because these GDPR rules apply to Europe, that these rules are hampering our technological development versus countries or continents where they don't have these rules.
Well, they do hamper blockchain development. The other technological advantages, I don't know what happens actually, is that we've seen it with the California Privacy Act. And also recently, I told you we were working in India as well. So there's an Indian Privacy Act, and they're both very much alike, akin to the GDPR. So it's it's often said that Europe is going to kind of offer a standard for the world, and specifically on this privacy issues, I think they do.
Yeah, okay, but maybe the next version of GDPR would be a probably better one, and then the rest of the world will benefit from stepping in later, right? Like all the people on the African continent. If you look at telecommunication in Europe, we have these copper wires everywhere. They just leapfrogged into mobile communication. Right, so the development we are doing in the case of GDPR could benefit all the others for them to leapfrog over this development phase that we are in, and go on and faster than we can. Great. Well, it looks like a great time to be a lawyer. I mean, there are so many wastelands to explore and so many boundaries to be tested. I mean, that seems very, very nice. Let me see if there are any other questions. I think most of them are. And the people are also answered the questions of other people. Okay, I'm going to close the Q&A and go on to the next segment, and then we will come back. So the next 20 minutes or so, I will go and show you something about our self-sovereign attendancy. To do this, this is highly unique, right? Normally, you would see a finished product, an app using blockchain as a product, but we are showing what we're doing at BlockchainLab. So we even provide you the code of our proof of concept. The only thing that you have to do to play with it is go to this website and install Node.js. Right, that is a tool. You can say that Node.js is something like the JavaScript engine in your Google Chrome. So if you go there and press on one of these green buttons, then it will install on your machine. Where do I have my slider? Here. And after that, you will go to our Git. And a Git is a place on the internet where the source code is. I have put that link also in the description of the video here, so you can go there and follow the instructions to install this on your computer. And I will go and show you the next about 20 minutes, step by step, how it works and what you can do with it, and how an event is registered on the Tangle and how an attendee registers on the Tangle. So have a look, and if you have any questions afterwards, then don't hesitate to ask. My name is Adrie Wisman, and this is the walkthrough of our proof of concept of the self-sovereign attendancy application, which we wrote for Node.js and JavaScript for the IOTA Tangle Chrysalis version and with masked authenticated messaging version 0, which we are going to interchange for streams before deployment. Now, by now I presume you have found our Git, where all our code is. You use the instructions to clone, run npm install, and go into the code directory, where you can see these 5 JavaScript programs: Organizer, Attendee, Generate QR, Event Close, and Verifier.js. I will walk you through all these different programs and how they function. Let me first show you how the initial state is. And for that, I'm going to go back to the sheet. Here you see 2 phones, 2 wallets. The attendee wallet, which has some personal information about the attendee, and the organizer wallet, which has information about the organizer and the events he organizes. The information on the attendee wallet will never leave his phone, and he can, if he really wants to, share some personal information, but only on his explicit request. Now, the organizer has to initialize the event, right? And he does that with 3 transactions. First, he will initialize the MEM, the MEM channel. He will write some primary private information about the event, which also has, for instance, the private key of the event. Then he writes a second record, which has public event information, which says, okay, time and date and location of the event and who organizes it, and the public event key. And then he will write a secret to the tangle. With this secret, the attendee can find the event information, and he finds the address where he can register for the event. That is done by a QR code, which you can put on a sheet, on a slide of your presentation, or we're working on it that you can use a Bluetooth beacon, which the attendee phone can scan in the room and receive the key. So with that information, he knows where to register, on which indexation he has to register on the tangle for this event. Now, I'll show you how that works. I'll go back to the code, and we see here the organizer, attendee, event close, generate QR, and verifier code. In the organizer code, you can see I hard-coded some information about the organizer and some about the event. Normally, this would not be hard-coded. This is for demo purposes. So this would be on the phone of the organizer. It's a variable in his wallet. We're going to initialize the event. So in the directory code, I will do node organizer. Then he asks me for the event seed. This is an 81 character long master password for this event, so to speak. Right? I can type in 81 characters, or I can put in a star, and then he will randomly generate a key for me. Then he asks me for a secure organizer key. This is also 81 characters long. It is the side key for the MEM channel. This is a restricted MEM channel, so everything is encrypted with this 81 character long side key. But the private record, the first record we write, could have a separate, different side key, temporarily only for the first record. Now, it's not really necessary, and maybe you know it, but a MEM channel, the records in that list can only be found one direction. You can only go from the first record, and there you find the address of the second record. You can never go back. Right? So it's not really necessary, but you can. I will put in a star because I will not change the side key for this first record. That would make my demo a lot more complex, but you know you could make a double encryption out of that. Okay, now he registers the event on the tangle. And you can see here, for instance, that 81 character randomly generated seed. you can see the 81 character long side key of the MEM. Here you can see the private and public event keys that were generated. And this is elliptic key encryption, so the private key is shorter than the public key. He writes the first record to the MEM, and he writes that on this message ID. This is a lot of information. I've just put it there for demo purposes so you can find it. I will copy this and I will show you where to find it. If I put that in the Explorer and go to Chrysalis testnet and search, here you can find the information. Now, you cannot read it, right, because it is encrypted. But I've also put in a link which incorporated that 81 character side key. I'll copy that, paste that in, and then we can look into there. Because now here I have the 81 character long side key. I've chosen that the first record is with the same side key as the rest. Like I said, you could use a different one. Here you can see the first record with the title, a timestamp, and the private key for this event. And here you can see the second record of the MEM with the organizer information, name, address, city, telephone number, website URL, etc. And here you can see the event information, the title, even date, time, location, etc. And here you can see the event public key. Now I will leave this MEM channel open on screen because later on we will append the attendee list, the official attendee list, and we will close this channel so nobody can append any attendees later on. And you can see that in real time. So on this screen you can also see the attendee QR code. This is the QR code that you will show in your presentation. I can copy this and paste it in my Explorer. So this QR code is the link for your attendee. By scanning this QR code, he can find the public event information and he knows where to register for this event. This QR code also has an expiration time and date. I've set this to 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, this QR code is unusable. You cannot use it to register for the event anymore. Even if the host has not closed the event, you can not use this QR code. I've put it on an expiration time at this moment, but you can also use it and change it in the code. So you could say, hey, the event host already makes preparations for his presentation and says, okay, the QR code should expire tomorrow afternoon. I'll start my presentation at 4, so the expiration should be at 4:30, for instance. All this information is in that QR code, and it's very hard to tamper with. Here we see some other information, but I think this is information you already saw. This is the information that is put into the second record of the MEM. Now let's register an attendee. Right, I'll type in node attendee.js, and that's this code. And in this code, you can see the information of the attendee. It was hard-coded for demo purposes, but normally this would be retrieved from the phone of the attendee. It's a variable, and this information is changeable by the attendee, of course. This information will generate a Merkle tree and a Merkle root. I didn't do that in this demo. I just put in a hash, and by changing this hash, I can change into a new attendee. We'll do that. I will first register this attendee. So he says, okay, I see this QR code. Now in this demo, I did not scan with my phone. I just wrote this QR code into a file, and this attendee.js reads that file and says, do you want to use that QR code? Yes, I do. Type star. And now he uses that QR code to fetch the public event information from the Tangle. He says, okay, first, this QR code will expire then and then. This is the event that you are currently on, and it is organized by that organization, that street, that city, that telephone number, etc. Would you like to register for this event? Yes. And now I can put in an optional remark. I can leave it blank, but the organizer could say, well, put in the city where you live. I'll put in Amsterdam. There's 1 million people living there, so this is not personal information. And this information, this remark, will be stripped. It will not be incorporated into the official attendee list. But as you can see in a moment, the organizer can real-time see who is registering. And so he can see, oh, the people from Amsterdam registered, and from Gothenburg, and from Antwerp. That's going nice. Well, he's not the only one that is registering. Let's say somebody else registers. I'll change the Merkle route here. I'll change that into 7, for instance. And I'll register a new person. With that QR code? Yes, with that QR code. Do you want to register to this event? Yes, I want to register. Optional remark, student 8135. Schools could use this. And that person is being registered to this event. Let's say this student registers twice. He scans the QR code again, registers one more time. Do you want to attend? Yes. Optional remark, blah, blah. And he registers. Okay, this person registered and the registration is going on. The host can see that in real time. I'll type in node event close.js. He says, okay, you're working with this event and you're the organizer. The registration is still open. And here you have a menu. You can type T for tangle list, D for detailed tangle list, C for close, or Q for quit. Now, T for tangle list shows you all the transactions which occurred on that special address. And you can see there were 3 transactions. Totally, the sum is 3 transactions. But I'm the host, I'm the organizer. So I also have the private key with which these messages were encrypted. And I'll show you a message like that. I can copy this and go to the Explorer, the Tangle Explorer. I'll paste in this message ID and look into it. Here you can see what is stored into a attendee transaction. This. Now this is encrypted with the public event key, which is an elliptic curve encryption. And for people who know what that means, that's comparable to RSA 3072, which is a military grade encryption. So good luck if you want to look inside. But I am the host. I have the private key. So I can type detailed tangle list, D, and look inside these transactions. And here I can see inside this transaction, this is the attendee token. This is the remark, and this is the timestamp of that message. I also see, this is student 8135, somebody did a double transaction. And he sees that this attendee token is used twice. Every person has a unique attendee token, which is a combination of personal information, public information for this event, and it's designed in a way that it is unique. So everybody gets a different token for different events. You cannot use this for inference or singling out people. You cannot say, oh, that guy was at event A, B, and C. This should be that guy. Impossible. Okay, this is a double ID, so there are 3 transactions, but there are only 2 unique IDs, right? And like I said, this is real time, so I can quit out of this program and register somebody else. Right? I can go and put in a different Merkle route, save that, and register another person. Use that QR code? Yes, I use that QR code. Do you want to attend this event? Yes, I want to. Optional remark, X, Y, Z. And that person is registered. If I go and look as a host, and I'll press, the event registration is still open. Press T for a tangle list. Now I see 4 transactions. Right, 4. I can even go and look into the transactions, detailed tangle list, and I see this guy, XYZ, also registered. So in real time, I can see who is registering at the moment. Now, let's say I close the event. Right, I see that all people who are attending have registered, and I press C. And now we can go and look on the Tangle into that MAM channel, and he will write the official attendee list to that MAM channel. And here you can see them in real time. These 3 attendee tokens have attended the event. Right, and now he's writing the closing message. So nobody can change anything on that list. Okay, we're waiting for that. Attaching closing message to Tangle. And this is the proof of work. Now he's done. And here is the closing message. He also says it here. Event closed by the organizer. And now there's no more C. There is an A for attendee list. Because now I can ask for the official list. And this is the official list, with the 3 attendee tokens for the 3 official attendees. Okay, I'll quit this. Now, an attendee can go to a verifier and say, well, I attended that event, right? So that's this situation. This situation, the attendee wants to show the Verifier QR code, and in that QR code there is, amongst other things, a pointer to the public event information and the official attendee list, so the verifier can check if the information that is included in this QR code is on the attendee list and tell if the person was at that event, yes or no. Let's do that. I will go to generate QR node, generate QR.js. Is it okay? Would you like to incorporate your name and birth date? There are 2 ways you can make a QR code in this program. You can make it anonymously, which only shows an attendee token, and the verifier can see if it's on the list, yes or no. Or you can even, if the verifier requires it, says everybody can show me that QR code, I want to see which name and which birth date is attached to that attendee token. And then you can incorporate that also. I will show you both. I will do first your anonymous way. So I don't want to incorporate it. And he says, okay, this is your Verifier QR code. And I put in a link for demo purposes, which you can copy and paste into your browser. So this is the QR code that you have to show the verifier, and then he can see if it is okay or not. We'll do that. Node verifier.js. Okay, do you want to use this verification QR code? Yeah, and that's the same as this one, right? Yes, I want to check this one. Yes, okay. This QR code was generated at this time, 0 minutes ago, less than a minute ago, right? Because here you can see that if the QR code is older than 5 minutes, or right, then from yesterday, somebody could have a picture of the QR code of his friend that was at this event. Then the attendee, the verifier would say, well, please generate a new QR code and even incorporate your personal information, so I'm sure that it was you. Here, the verifier can see which event it was and organized by whom, telephone numbers, email addresses, etc. The event was closed at that time, and no personal information was included in this QR code, but this attendee token is from somebody who has attended the event. Right? I will generate the same QR code now with personal information. Yes, I would like to incorporate that. Yes, okay, this is your new QR code, and it has another link. I will copy that and paste that also. You can see that it is a little bit different. There's a little bit more information also in there, because now if the verifier looks at that QR code, he says it was generated 0 minutes ago for that event organized by that firm. The event was closed then. And this is the personal information of Robert Smith, birthday that and that. With this attendee token, he has attended this event. Right, so this person is on the list. Now I'm gonna speed things up a little bit, because I know that the QR code has not yet expired. So somebody is going to sneak in. I'm going to go to node attendee. I'll generate a new Merkle root. Let's say 0 at that point. And this guy use that QR code. Yes, use that QR code. It's from this event. Would you like to register for this event? Now, remember, the event was closed, but the QR code has not yet expired, right? So it's still usable. So would you like to register? Yes. Optional remark, Berlin. Writing attendance to the tangle and done. Right, so the QR code was still not expired. He could do the transaction, although the organizer has closed the event. Let's look. Node event close. The host can look into that. Yeah, it says, hey, the event was closed at that time. What would you want to see? I want to see a tangle list. And now he sees 5 transactions. Right, I can even look into them, detailed tangle list. Right, and here is the guy from Berlin. He tries to sneak in, but the event is already closed. The tangle has already got a record of the 3 people who officially attended the event, right? You cannot sneak in. If I put in attendee list, I get these 3 people. The event was closed at that time, and these 3 are the official ones that attended the event. That person from Berlin cannot get on the official list. Right, so if I quit out of there and I go to Verifier, I'll try to generate a QR code. Would you like to incorporate information? No. I'll verify this guy from Berlin. Do you want to use that QR code from him? Yes. And he says, no, this person was not registered at this event. Right? So, like I said, he was able to do a transaction, but he could not get on the official list, and so he was not registered at the event. That's the immutability of the tangle working for us, and now he's unable to sneak in. But the QR code was still valid, right? So let's see if the QR code has expired already. We'll try another Merkle hash in there, and we'll just try to put in a new attendee. Let's see if we can do that. Use that QR code. Yes, use that QR code. this QR code has expired, right? So after 20 minutes or after a certain time and date which the organizer has set, this QR code does not register anymore, right? So there are several mechanisms, and even if you would do a trick with your time on your phone or whatever, the event is closed. You cannot change the official attendee list. So this is a quick walkthrough, and you see the code, and it's still a bit rough. All right, it's meant as a starting point. It has lots of remarks and lots of console logs in there, so you can see what is going on. It is meant, like I said, like a starting point for your own code. There's lots of things to refactor. I think at least 30% of the code is remarks, etc. So have fun with it. It's just a proof of concept, and now we are going to build this into a React Native app, so everybody can use this on his or her phone. It's an open source project from Interreg Project Bling, Blockchain in Government, for which we are building this. So if you have any questions, you can find us through our website or through our GitHub. Don't hesitate to contact us, or if you want to cooperate with us in any way. And I would say happy and fun times in building your own application for a self-sovereign attendancy, so people can register at your event and prove they were really there. Good luck. Okay, that was quite a topic. I hope you could find your way in all these numbers and all these addresses and all these Merkle roots, etc. But now you know the principle behind our self-sovereign attendancy. You got a little insight, a look under the hood. You could see the engine of the app that we are developing in React Native, and which will be available later this year for a broad public. And we'll go a little bit further than this. So at the moment it works with a QR code, but we are looking into it to have it work with a Bluetooth beacon. So the organizer initializes the event, and then his phone turns into a Bluetooth beacon, so everybody in the room with their phone can receive the signal from the Bluetooth beacon, and that is then the secret code. So you don't need a QR code. Of course, the QR code in this time period with everybody staying at home is a QR code for online meetups, etc., and conferences and courses is much more efficient. Okay, let's see if there are any questions. Coco stated that over time we will have to change our name into DAG instead of BlockchainLab. Well, who knows? Maybe we'll change it into Distributed Ledger Technology Lab or something, but that doesn't sound very nice. Okay, I don't see any other questions. Probably most of you fell asleep during the presentation. Then there is one thing we have to do. I have to thank our guest speaker for today, Jetse Sprij, for enlightening us about GDPR. I learned a lot, I must say. I always thought it was very black and white. That's how programmers think. Maybe that's just me, ones and zeros, but there seems to be a half and three quarters also in the law. And it brings a lot of opportunities, I think. So thank you for that, Jetse. I have to inform you about our next meetup every third Thursday of the month, 18th of June. There will be the next meetup. So already put a note in your agenda. Then, like a real YouTuber, I have to ask you to subscribe. Because that will help us within the YouTube algorithm, so we'll get a little bit higher ranking, and other people can find us. Well, that's it. I already told you that we're going for the informal meeting to Kumo Space. I've put the address of Kumo Space on the next page. I will show the outro, and so you can go there. Other members of BlockchainLab will also be there, and you can just walk up to us and ask any question you would like. I will have to change a few settings here, so I'll take a few minutes to get there. And like I said, I'll put the address of Kumo Space on the screen, but also in the chat, so you can just click. I hope it is of any value to you, that you liked it. I see a lot of people stayed till the end, and it became a lot longer than we planned. So thank you for staying, and I'll see you next time, or I'll see you in a few minutes in Kumo Space. Bye-bye.